up, everybody? It's your boy Ryan, and this is the Thunder Channel on nootropics, on testosterone, on anything that we can do to biochemically enhance ourselves safely to function and perform and feel awesomely. Thanks so much for being with me. Going to talk about the Racetam shortage, which really isn't a shortage, and I'll get to that, and ways that you can still get every Racetam that you need, but also alternatives to use if you're not willing to or don't want to get Racetams from other sources other than Nootropics Depot, which is really the primary company that has been having a shortage on particularly oxyracetam and aniracetam. So let's get into that first. Let's support this broadcast. A couple epic products. I will talk about them more in depth at the end of this video, so stick around if you're interested in our Nootropic stacks, which are epically powerful, and our consulting service. Number one, Cortex Nootropic Stack, very powerful Nootropic Stack. Number two, Torque. We've moved 2 iterations of inventory of Torque in 2 months. That is unheard of. People love the stack. Buy TorqueLiveCortex.com and get CortexLiveCortex.com. Again, I'll talk about them at the end of this video. The links are in the description below for those products, though, just so you folks understand. All right, so let's get into a video by the Nootropic reviewer. This is the guy from Nootropics Depot. I believe he probably works for Nootropics Depot. Well, he has to work for Nootropics Depot because he's basically promoting Nootropics Depot products in all of the videos. He's got a hefty amount of subscribers. In fact, more than this channel. They've been around for quite some time. He makes a couple interesting points about what to do in relation to the shortage, at least from their company's perspective, in their inventory of Racetams, and I want to play it for you guys and talk about a couple and just sort of react to what he's saying here. So let's get into it. Great.
Hey everyone, this is Michael Dougal, the Nootropic reviewer, and during this video, I'm going to share my thoughts on this Racetam shortage. How am I dealing with it? Are there alternatives? First, I'd like you to all know sincerely that I am facing the same challenge as you are, because I was using 4 great Racetams for many, many years, and they've really helped me build my business and also really helped me with my mindset and personal growth. And those 4 Racetams were Piracetam, Aniracetam, oxyracetam, and pramiracetam almost every single day. So right now anyway, I'm stocked up on my aniracetam and my piracetam, but I haven't taken any oxyracetam and pramiracetam for a while, and that's kind of concerning because oxyracetam is really great for alertness.
Yeah, so let's just couch it there. I wouldn't want to run out of oxyracetam. I get it from Nootropic Source, and there are a couple other vendors that I've trialed and have some oxyracetam from, but the source has been around for quite some time, so I really trust their products. And yeah, I mean, one of the great benefits of having oxyracetam on hand is revival of your cognitive function when you haven't slept well. That's one of the things for me, that just, there can be times where, if I haven't slept well enough, or especially if I was my sleep was interrupted and I still maybe got 6 or 7, but I didn't really get into deep REM, or it was just my sleep was interrupted too much, and I don't really want to take modafinil that day, and maybe I don't have time for a run in the morning, which usually does give me good cognitive function for quite some time. Oxyracetam is an incredible revival chemical for my brain function. There have been times where I slept like absolute shit, and then took 500, 700 milligrams of oxyracetam, a little bit of a choline source, usually citicholine, and then literally I went from being a dullard to cognitively functioning really awesome. So you kind of don't want to run out of oxyracetam, or at least I don't, because it's very useful in those situations. Now there's other things to do, like I said, modafinil. Torque, our nootropic stack, is actually an incredible strategy to wake your brain up and get yourself in a good place when you haven't slept well. But oxyracetam is a very unique compound, so I wouldn't want to run out of it. All right, let's continue.
And pramiracetam is really good for routine work, to build your discipline, to build your willpower, to focus on getting those repetitively boring tasks done. However, I don't have any of it right now. And piracetam, I'm really grateful that I still do have that one in stock. And piracetam was the first nootropic I had ever taken. I mean, outside of caffeine and L-tyrosine, those ingredients in pre-workouts, it was piracetam, which was... So let's stop it there. And yeah, I mean, in this situation, for those of you that either haven't tried piracetam, or you're just not wanting to go to Nootropic Source, or you just want to wait or something for the other Racetams to be available, and you don't really have a huge history with piracetam, maybe piracetam would be something for you to try. I mean, the effects are comparable. Look, each Racetam certainly hits differently. From my experience in working with clients, it's just there's subtle differences between them that when you take nootropics for such a long time, you get to notice the difference between
how they affect you. And piracetam is really interesting in that, you know, it's less stimulatory, but it's more facilitative of general cognitive function, that you actually notice it more so when you're doing cognitive work, right? And your brain is trying to output stuff and you're, you know, executing stuff that requires you to have good brain function. It won't necessarily potently stimulate you like aniracetam does. I mean, that stuff stimulates me, honestly. It makes my brain work better and stimulates me. Same thing with oxiracetam, but piracetam is a lot more subtle in that regard, but still I have the functional benefits of it. So it's like, fine, like I'll take piracetam and then just have some teocrine or Alcar or both in the mix to, you know, take care of the stimulation side. And then I got piracetam in the mix. You know, usually I'm sitting around 2.5 grams with a choline source. It's citicholine at 50 to 75 milligrams. And that does me just fine. So, you know, overarching point number one, piracetam is actually a really great compound to have in the mix, you know, in the case where you're not able to get aniracetam or oxiracetam. So let's continue.
Really helped me with my memory when I was a student. The adaptogenic herbs that you may be using, because they can often demotivate you. Things like bacopa, things like lion's mane or ashwagandha.
Okay, so he's basically making the point that one of the things that he's suggesting that you do in the face of a, you know, an aniracetam or oxiracetam shortage or a general racetam shortage from that company, again, you can get racetam from Nootropic Source and other companies as well, is avoid taking compounds that slow your brain function down. And there is something to say about lowering cortisol, which is what the adaptogenic herbs will do, like ashwagandha. And yeah, they can put you in a place where cognitive function is slow. In fact, many times in my history, I have overdosed ashwagandha particularly. I remember this one time I actually got a liquid dropper of ashwagandha from like some herbal company. It was actually legit ashwagandha, but I mean, it was so potent in its liquid form that it like made me not want to do anything. I mean, it was probably great for sitting and reflecting on things or like relaxing, definitely. You know, that's ultimately what, you know, in some sense we, at least at a baseline level, take things like ashwagandha for. But yeah, it has the ability to slow down cognitive processing in a way where, you know, productivity isn't really something you'd be oriented toward doing. So yeah, I suppose that's a good point, that one of the ways you could avoid this, or that you can kind of jive well in the presence of somewhat of a racetam shortage, is like not take stuff that, you know, that ends up slowing you down. But I think there are much better ideas than that. Like, you know, there's plenty of other compounds that are effective at modulating cholinergic brain chemistry, which is really what the racetams are doing. Not so much AMPA receptor brain chemistry, which is, you know, one of the things that aniracetam and oxiracetam have the capacity to do, but cholinergic function. Noopept is one of them, right, which he gets into and we'll sort of touch on a little later, you know, as we go into this video. Hydra-21 is another one, right? So this is another similar chemical that does work through brain cholinergic signaling to make your brain work better and function better. Another one is PRL-853, and that stuff you really don't need a lot of. You're talking about 2.5 to 5 milligrams, and then you get a good pronounced cholinergic effect where it translates to better focus, generally better processing capacity, in some cases better verbal fluency, and a better, more kind of fluid brain. There's also uridine monophosphate and CDP choline as a combination. I mean, that's one of the greatest combinations in nootropics history for lighting the brain up, right? Giving you a lot of energy, that motivated type of energy, but also improving processing. In fact, both of those chemicals together, along with B vitamins and some fish oil, are the actual constituents for you making new neurons, a process called neurogenesis, the spawning of new neurons. So those are great options, you know, Hydra-21, PRL-853, even acetyl L-carnitine, to be using when you don't have racetams. And this way, if you rely on ashwagandha or other compounds that sort of chill you out, Faciracetam would be another great example of a compound that chills you out. You don't have to stop taking them. You can just stack them with other things. There's a case also to be made that if you want to continue taking ashwagandha, rhodiola, whatever, tulsi holy basil, name your adaptogenic herb that calms you down, you could also be stacking it with things like modafinil. You could be stacking it with things like phenylpiracetam hydrazide, and all of those things, if you've got your dose right and your stack correct for you, should allow you to function really awesomely without having to give up, taking your adaptogenic herbs. So
that I am consuming more of, and it's not a bad idea for those of you that are a bit used to the Racetams, would be Noopep. Noopep, it kind of falls in the same family. It's been known to be 100 times, even some people say it's 1,000 times more potent than Racetam, and it really does help with motivation levels. In the past, I was taking doses of like 10 milligrams 3 times a day, but I found it more helpful taking a dose of like 20 milligrams, sometimes 30 milligrams for 2 servings a day, and then sometimes I'll take 10 milligrams in the evening if I absolutely need to, but it works in a very similar way in that it makes you alert. I found that with Noopep though.
So, okay, let's talk about that. So first of all, the dose suggestions I would not suggest, so I definitely disagree with those. And I think what this guy is speaking from is an individual perspective, right? So everybody has their N=1, right? And I've got my own N=1, and I can take high doses of Noopep in the 20 to 25 milligram range, but at that dose, it actually has an anxiolytic effect and not a cognitive, functionality promoting effect, which is fine. I mean, it's just an interesting other thing, other brain state that I may need to get in sometimes, but taking Noopep twice a day, 3 times a day, and especially in higher doses, when you have more than an N=1, so from my perspective, seeing this across innumerable amounts of men that I've worked with over the years, it's like most people do not respond to high doses of Noopep, and especially taken consistently. And the number one problem that they eventually run into is brain fog of some type. Now, it's unclear whether it's like, you're upregulating acetylcholinesterase or some other, mechanism that is quelling or reducing the amount of brain acetylcholine, or if just overloads of acetylcholine have the capacity through some unknown mechanism. I mean, perhaps too much synaptic acetylcholine causes a fatigue of some type, but that definitely does happen via Noopep's ability to foster cholinergic function in the brain. I mean, that's one of its primary mechanisms of action, besides helping you to express more nerve growth factor, which is also very interesting. So quite honestly, I would suggest that if you're going to use Noopep as an alternative to Racetams, which is a good idea. I mean, Noopep is a very cool compound, and I have Noopep around. I've got a nasal spray that I use, and honestly, I love the stuff every now and then. You should be dosing it between 5 and 15 milligrams. That's what I would ultimately suggest. I mean, you're probably going to find a good sweet spot where you don't have side effects at like 7 or 8 milligrams. That's honestly what I've seen across very many people in doing nootropics consulting. And for some people, the 10 to 15 milligram range is going to be where they need to be. And then for a small minority of people, like the Nootropics reviewer guy, perhaps, I mean, he's also, promoting Nootropics Depot Noopep, so it's unclear whether or not, his experience is actually true or accurate or whatever. But there are some people, and I have seen some people to give that a little bit of credence, that actually do need larger doses of Noopep. And usually those are folks that are on benzos, interestingly, because they're anticholinergic in various capacities, and other pharmaceutical drugs that are also anticholinergic that just generally make them function not so great, that they require higher doses of Noopep to actually function awesomely. But either way, Noopep is definitely an alternative to oxiracetam and aniracetam. And yeah, though the mechanisms of action are different, they are similar as it relates to enhancing the processing or the signaling of the neurotransmitter acetylcholine, which does translate to focus, especially better working memory, and for some people verbal fluency, and for some people motivation and energy.
It's more short-lasting versus Racetam or aniracetam. You pretty much need to be taking it every single day, and then after a couple of weeks, it seems to be saturating your system and starts working.
Okay, so that I have yet to see that to be true. I'm not sure what research that is coming from or what experience. Probably the fact that they want you to buy Noopep from them, frankly, to be honest. So that's not true. Noopep is not the type of chemical that will build up in your system per se and then start to work better or whatever, despite the original some of the original scientists behind it suggesting a 3 to 4 month ongoing cycle and then cycling off. You got to remember, a lot of these compounds were actually built for people with neurodegeneration, which our use of nootropics as performance enthusiasts is for performance, right, and productivity, not because we've got early onset dementia. So no, I would not suggest taking Noopept every day. You're eventually going to run into side effects, or the compound is going to lose potency. Most of the racetams and, if you will, analogs, we'll just call Noopept an analog, even though technically, chemically, it's not an actual analog, but it's similar in its mechanism of action. You can't really be taken too consistently. Sure, you could try, but my experience tells me, and all the data in clients tells me, that you're going to run into a tolerance or side effects in some cases relatively quickly. So I wouldn't be taking it very consistently. I'd be switching between, as I said, Noopept, PRL853, Idra 21, acetyl L-carnitine. You could even get some Acorus calamus, which works similarly to piracetam and induces verbal fluency, again, using uridine and citicoline together, perhaps uridine and alpha-GPC together. I mean, there's just a lot of other compounds that are out there that are cholinergic in nature that you can switch between instead of taking Noopept super consistently. Again, this is coming from the guy who's promoting Nootropics Depot products, so you got to kind of keep that in mind. And you guys know me, I'm always going to tell you it straight. Because we're not selling powders or whatever. So let's see if there's anything else relevant here.
Noopept, I've seen it, and if that's what you're looking for, then the way that I would recommend that
you
take something like Noopept with GPC and the Racetam is good for anxiety, especially if verbal fluency is good for anxiety, especially in social interactions, like not only going.
Did you know that there's a simple combination of natural ingredients that will help you poop out pounds of old rotten waste in your colon within
up and approaching people, but also feeling calm when you're in conversation. A great alternative to Racetam is actually lion's mane. Lion's mane makes you feel very calm. It makes you really intrigued about people, to learn more about. I'm typically taking lion's mane 3 times a day. I've talked about it in depth in this video over here. It's pretty much been a game changer for me. So I like that as an alternative to Racetam.
Okay, so that is something else that I disagree with. Yeah, I mean, lion's mane is a nerve growth factor expressing compound that probably possesses cholinergic properties. I'm judging that by a large degree of people that have taken lion's mane and taken it in too high doses and run into basically the same types of brain sort of side effects that they do when they're taking cholinergic. So it probably does have a cholinergic mechanism, and I'm sure I remember in my history that there is a cholinergic mechanism to lion's mane, but largely it is expressing nerve growth factors. So these things are not one and the same. There's not a potent, for most folks at least, the stimulatory effect when taking lion's mane. So again, what they're trying to do, and at least what I think they're trying to do, is, hey, we've got these products here, because we don't have aniracetam and oxiracetam, rely on these other products. And look, who am I to say that that isn't right for some people? Maybe lion's mane is going to hit really powerful for you, and that'll be somewhat comparable to the energy effect that you get from aniracetam. But for most people, probably not.
With respect to oxiracetam, that's where Noopept really comes into play. It feels very similar. With pramiracetam, unfortunately, I have yet to find any sort of alternative. I've tried so many nootropics, but for now, what I have found best is using rhodiola rosea twice a day. So I'm using rhodiola rosea once at 2 o'clock p.m. and then again at 6 o'clock p.m. I'm taking a dose.
Okay, so we'll just couch it there, because I think basically what they're doing now is trying to get you on a particular dosing schedule to buy their products, and whatever, more power to them. But yeah, I mean, I would just stick, honestly, with the compounds that I suggested for alternatives, and there's plenty of them out there. And you can actually set up a pretty good rotation schedule of those compounds, and perhaps some of the other compounds that you guys have in the mix. I mean, maybe just some days doing teacrine, Alcar, or Mucuna, and just setting that aside as being a good stack, because that stuff is definitely going to make your brain function well. And maybe look into some other compounds that are working on acetylcholine, but perhaps in different ways. A great one is huperzine A, or Huperzia serrata, and that is a cholinesterase inhibitor, which means it's basically going to keep some acetylcholine around the synaptic space, able to bind to receptors for you to kind of get the cholinergic response. So huperzine A in 40 to 200 micrograms, not milligrams, would be a good alternative. But again, there are other companies that right now do have racetams. They've got aniracetam and oxiracetam. And again, I keep coming back to Nootropics Source, nootropicsource.com, no affiliation. but they've got, you know, most of the racetams, and they may have run out of aniracetam or oxiracetam here and there, but they're not persistently out of it as the depot is. You know, what this guy is trying to do is give you alternatives from the depot that may help you, but also that serve them so that they can, you know, continue doing revenue and try to capture that part of the market that was buying their racetams, keep that fraction of the market in with them to continue buying some of the other, you know, compounds. And again, whatever, that's their prerogative to do that. I'm just saying, for you to be an informed user, you got to know that's, you know, ultimately what they're doing. So take my suggestions on some of those alternatives to take in the meantime, or again, use nootropicsource.com. And if there are other sources that you guys know of for aniracetam and oxiracetam, you can comment those. I normally say we don't like to do source talk in the comments, but you guys can comment if you have other sources for, you know, racetams. So shifting gears into two other alternatives, and it's a perfect segue to our stacks, the Cortex Stack. You know, this is self-serving, but the Cortex Stack is a very, very powerful nootropic stack. I mean, look, cut and dry, the brass tacks of it are, if you want an alternative to racetams that, you know, gives you pretty much every element of good brain function, meaning mental energy, motivation, but also memory and central processing, like the ability to be fluidly better cognitively in what it is you're doing, whether it's verbal fluency or whether you're engaging in tasks that require your brain to be like super fast in what it's doing, like programming or something. God forbid you're a programmer, because that looks hard, and I tried to learn Ruby on Rails back in the day and almost went insane. But Cortex is a very powerful stack for getting your brain in a place where work is a lot easier. So go buy Cortex, livecortex.com. The link is in the description below. Cortex is lots of good fluid brain energy and functionality. Okay, so it's important to distinguish between that and the Torque nootropic stack. So that's the second alternative to racetams, aside from some of the other stuff that I suggested earlier in the video. The Torque nootropic stack is extremely powerful. Now look, it will optimize central processing via the LCAR and the acetylcholine in it, but the rest of the constituents in the stack are put together in a way that gives you very noticeable clean stimulant energy, right? So it's more on the side of, like, we almost called it gear, because it's like get into gear. If you wake up with crappy sleep or you're in a place where your brain's not functioning well, Torque is definitely the stack to take. If you just want a clean, energizing, stimulating feeling, then Torque is the stack to take. But again, at the same time, because there is a good concentration of both cytidine 5-diphosphylcholine and acetyl L-carnitine in the Torque nootropic stack, in addition to giving you energy, it's also going to make you function better. Okay, you can buy Torque at livecortex.com. The link is in the description below. That is our nootropic stack, somewhat new on the market, but people honestly love Torque, and it's actually built to be taken way more often than most nootropics. As I mentioned before, you shouldn't really be taking aniracetam, oxiracetam every day. Again, you're going to eventually run into side effects, or you're going to run into tolerance problems. But with the ingredients in Torque, I built it so that you can take it at the very least 5 times a week. If you want to be very conservative, 4 or 5 times a week. But you should be able to get away with taking Torque for 6 or 7 days a week if you absolutely have to. Like, if you don't want to diversify your stacks, or you haven't, or you don't know how to, you can take Torque consistently. That is literally what it is built for. So go buy Torque, livecortex.com. Again, the link is in the description below. If you need my help on anything related to physiology, whether it is helping you to nail down a bunch of nootropic stacks that then you can cycle between, you know, so that you have a constant roster of good nootropic stacks, hire me for consulting. I mean, we've got business folks, primarily people that need to be productive, that I've got on a regimen of very tailored stacks that we've worked together through my expertise to actually make perfect for their brains. And it's like, okay, you know, Monday we're going to take this stack, you know, Tuesday this stack. Client hits me up and says, hey, today I've got a particularly intensive cognitive processing day for 8 hours, and then I've got a client to see like 4 hours later. What should I do? We formulate stack for them in that regard. Go book a consult with me at livecortex.com. Either have a 3-month program or a 6-month program. For those of you that just need professional expertise on one thing or the other related to nootropics, testosterone, your TRT protocol, raising testosterone, gaining your sexual function back, we actually have a 1-call option. Okay, we have a 1-call option to get on the phone with me. Now, I am flooded with calls Like, I'm absolutely flooded. I mean, a good bit of there's a certain period of the day where I'm doing calls. Like, I'm almost completely booked. So I had to raise the price on the singular call, and that's probably going to stay where it is. So keep that in mind. But if you need my expertise and have the budget, please book a call with me, and we will be able to get you in. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. It's been a pleasure hanging out with you. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Hit the bell to get notified of everything that I am pumping out, because I'm pumping out all kinds of different content these days. All kinds. I also wanted to let you guys know that I'm in the process of building a bunch of programs. You know, we've built programs like Nootropics Ground Zero, which is really a video course, Nootropics Masterclass, and Nootropics God Course. These are all courses on how to use nootropics to get really, really good results. To think about it, how I think about it, actually be able to develop your own stacks and function really well. But there's a lot of things that we discuss on this channel that I have expertise in that I haven't built courses for, that I'm like doing consulting on, and that's great. But I also want the option for you guys to be able to actually get courses. So we're going to be doing a dialing in your TRT protocol course. You know, we're going to be fixing sexual dysfunction that is unrelated to testosterone program. I'm going to be doing a PSSD program. For those of you that have PSSD and you don't want to do a consult, or it's too expensive for you, or you've heard like all the crazies in the forum say whatever it is that they're saying over there, then yeah, I'll be building a program so you can actually just watch a video course and, you know, get a resource sheet of very specific instructions for you to go through almost my process in consulting people with PSSD to get better. Hope that makes sense. Look forward to that stuff coming soon. It's been a pleasure hanging out with you, and I'll talk to you next time.